The cover date is October 1st, 1983 for this issue of Amazing Heroes, and boy, does this one have a couple of humdingers in it, including a solicitation for a comic book that never came out that will absolutely blow your mind. We'll get to that in just a bit. The cover story is about Somerset Holmes, which was a book written by Bruce Jones, drawn by Brent Anderson. If Bruce Jones's name sounds familiar to you, he came back to write, I think it was the Hulk for Marvel about 15 years ago. I think he got away from comics for a while and came back for that, and I think he's gone again. Not entirely sure, but I have this book, and after reading the interview and the article about it, I want to go back and dig through my back issues and find where I have that book now and read it again, because I think I'd probably read deeper into the comic than I did originally. So let's take a look at some of the highlights of this one. I haven't mentioned this before, but they reprinted comic strips in Amazing Heroes, including the classic Archie Goodwin, Al Williamson Star Wars strips. And not just like a page or two at a time, but these things went on for page after page after page, and they're absolutely stunning works. I mean, I've never read these comic strips. I've always heard good things about them, especially Al Williamson's art. And I have to agree with everything positive those people said about it, because these panels are beautiful. And if you just look at it, kind of squint your eyes and look at it from afar, his use of negative space, of the shadows, the blacks and the whites. I remember reading books about how to create comic strips when I was a kid, because I really wanted to be a comic strip artist in the 80s, right? The glory days of comic strips, The Far Side, Calvin and Hobbes, Bloom County, all the rest. And one of the things they always mentioned was being able to spot blacks to give your comic strip weight, to hold it down on the page so that it had a presence amidst all the other comic strips. And Al Williamson handles that beautifully on here, from the shadows on the sides of the animals to the backgrounds to the shadows on the tree, the skies over there. I mean, everything in here it's just a beautiful, beautiful comic strip. And it's fun to read through these things. Grimjack gets an ad from First Comics, but that's not what we're here for. What we're here for is this news flash. Aardvark Vanaheim and Marvel Comics will be uniting their forces for a Cerebus X-Men crossover issue in 1984. This most unlikely team-up will take place during the Six Crises finale of the High Society, Cerebus Tale, and will involve the X-Men popping into Cerebus' world. Cerebus creator Dave Sim will pencil and co-write the one-shot. X-Men scripter Chris Claremont will also write. Sim will be inking most of the book, but he will leave some pages open for jamming with fellow artists like Paul Smith and Joe Rubinstein. The format of the one-shot has not yet been established, but leading contenders are a 60-page comic book on Mando paper or a graphic novel. I wish we got this. This looks awesome. This is a Dave Sim drawing, not the Wolveroach, but there is Cerebus, and there is the X-Men. And man, I wish we had gotten this one. If anyone sees Chris Claremont at a Comic-Con anytime soon, ask him about this, what happened, what the story would have been, how it fell apart. I can only imagine it was probably contractual somehow. But darn, that would have been awesome. Let's skip ahead here. We got the coming distractions. We're back in the reviews section. Yes, always my favorite part, the reviews. Oh, they wrote such great reviews. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here is a review of Thriller #1, Robert Lauren Fleming, Trevor Von Eden. This was a crazy, wacky comic. I do have other issues of Amazing Heroes where they have interviews with the creative team and they talk about the book, and I've never read it. It looks really cool, and I know there are some people online who love that book with a passion and always recommend it if you can find it. This reviewer, not so sure. Just read the opening paragraph on his review. It's Kevin McConnell doing the reviews. The advertisements for the first issue of Thriller state that you can't read it fast enough. Agreed. The book contains no intermissions, no pauses, and no halftime. Unfortunately, neither does it contain any discernible characterizations, interaction, perspective, or drama. Coming to the end, Thriller #1 has all the charm and appeal of a fast-moving glacier. Furthermore, what went wrong with it went wrong quickly. I guess I can tolerate it, but I cannot recommend it. Just snappy, to the point, kind of mean. The kind of review I would never write myself, because I don't have it in me to be that harsh. But I read it and I do chuckle a little bit, I have to admit. If that makes me a bad person, that makes me a bad person. Skip to the end here to Potpourri. This was a section of random short stories that Jim Korkis compiled, the late great Jim Korkis, that Don Rosa drew spot illustrations for. And as you can tell from this first drawing, which would not fly today, no. This is Don Rosa doing a Don Martin impersonation about a story that in 1970, the 101st Airborne Division Patrol captured a North Vietnamese soldier carrying a copy of Mad Magazine. That's pretty wacky. But what I really wanted to highlight here is this article down here about 3D comics. I have a whole playlist here of reviews of 3D comics, so this one was of interest to me. Joe Kubert on 3D comics in Writer's Digest magazine in 1953. Quote, "We estimate that the first 40 million comics we print," hold on, I can't say that without laughing. 40 million comics. I can't even do the math in my head for how many comics Marvel prints in a month these days. How many months it would take to get to 40 million, but it would be an awful lot. Anyway, we estimate that the first 40 million comics we print will sell, and then it will all be over. Whichever company gets his books out first wins. Publishers who come along next November in 1953 will flop because of the 25-cent price and because many parents may say that 3D comics are hard on the kids' eyes. Okay, let's stand back from this for a second. Two quick things. One, yeah, the race to capitalize on the fad is real, even in comics to this day. You see it over and over again. Once something hits, once something is popular, everyone tries to imitate it quickly. 3D comics became a thing. Joe Kubert saw that it was going to be a thing. He had to pounce on it fast because he didn't think it was going to last. He was correct. And his company published a bunch of them, and he made his money. So good for him. Second thing, parents were worried that their kids' eyes would be screwed up because of 3D glasses. I'm fairly certain there's never been a scientific poll done on that. I'm also sure some parents actually thought that back in the 50s. I'm sure that I, who enjoy reading 3D comics today, don't read them for more than 20 minutes at a time because it messes up my eyes. When I take the glasses off, I have to adjust for a second. It doesn't hurt permanently or anything, but it takes a second to adjust. I don't think even the most obsessed kids with 3D comics in the 50s were keeping their 3D glasses on for so long that it would screw up their eyes. But, parents worry about these things. I understand. There's the same thing about sitting too close to the TV and watching TV too much and playing video games. Although Mario thumb was real. People actually did hurt their thumbs playing too much Nintendo. Anyway, back to the quote here. Our company, St. John Publishing Company, is taking its best comics and putting 8 of them into 3D with 1 million press run on each. Again, ouch, he's going to print 1 million press run copies, 8 comics with 1 million press run copies each. That's impressive. They will be on sale August 25th. He printed them all at the same time, holy cow. And gosh, how they will number the 10-cent books. The kids will have to own at least one 3D book. That means they won't buy as many comics, and the extra 15 cents we charge will cut in on the sale of the dime books. This reminds me of the 90s when Marvel was accused of trying to fill the racks and overload the racks with all their comics to try to push DC out and to try to push Image Comics out. Because the retailers are going to buy all the Marvel comics, and they only have so much shelf space. So what's going to happen? They're just going to take DC Comics off the racks or Image Comics off the racks to make room for those extra Marvel comics. I'm not sure that ever actually came to be. Marvel was expanding so fast, and then they went into bankruptcy for unrelated reasons, but that just reminded me of that. That's all I have to say. But it's interesting to see a little bit of historical relevance to 3D comics. I don't have any of the 3D comics from the 50s to review, to talk about that much, to be honest. I think that one Superman comic that I reviewed, the one that came with the Superman Red-Blue comic, is as close as I've come to any of those. And that was probably around that 1953 time. I'd have to double check. But interesting to see that they saw the 3D comics as a fad, and no one made a long-term plan for them. No one made a 3D series that they planned to run for a good long time, and so that's what we get. We get the occasional burst of 3D comics and not much else, which is a shame. And there's an ad for Atari Force, a video game comic from 1983, from the new DC. And that is Amazing Heroes number 32, October 1st, 1983. If you want to see more of these magazine reviews, I do have a playlist. Feel free to take a look at those. We've got a few up there already, and I'll probably have more to come. Like this video if you want to see more, because I'm still going through them. I'm having fun. If it's worth sharing, I will do so. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you again real soon.